Kendo Podcast by Masahiro Imafuji from Kendo-Guide.com. Thank you for listening. This podcast is about Japanese martial arts Kendo for Kendo lovers and supported by Kendo enthusiasts through Patreon.com. Thank you for your support, guys. Please visit Kendo-Guide.com for more Kendo information and how to support Kendo-Guide.com. Kendo Podcast Episode 16. Today I would like to talk about Kendo and death. The reason I wanted to talk about it is that I read an article about Nishimura Senshu. He is the current All Japan Kendo champion. He lives and works in Kumamoto Prefecture as a member of the Riot Police Units in Kumamoto. And Kumamoto was hit by earthquake, many earthquakes actually, and he went out to help and save people's lives. And he shared his experience in this article, and I think he shared his honest thoughts about what he felt. He felt fear, and he thought, is it okay for me to do Kendo? The fear, because he was working to save people's lives, but at the same time, he might die. He might die while he's helping other people, and he felt a fear, and he participated in some Kendo practices with other, those strong kendoists in Japan, but people realized that he didn't have energy, as much energy as he always had, of course, and then he realized, I still overwhelmed by this fear. And he had this doubt that, is it okay for him to practice now? So he has this all doubts in himself, and then he is now gradually recovering from this traumatic experience. Probably a lot of people think samurai used to practice Kendo so we can survive, right? And we have this great culture in Kendo that, how we should be faced to death. But realistically, we don't really face to death. We don't live like well, at least me, I live in the United States of America, USA, and I lived in Japan as well. I lived in Guatemala, and I lived in New Zealand. I didn't feel the death was right next to me. Sometimes I did. When I was in Guatemala, I felt kind of danger. But anyway, in New Zealand too, there were a lot of people back then didn't like Asians or racism, basically. And if you are not careful, if I wasn't careful, I was their target, one of their targets. So I was very careful. And of course, everyone has their own danger, but not right next to the death, I think. It's not near. So, like a Kendo, I don't think teaches how to face to death. Of course, we train really hard, but it's not to face death. We don't train like samurai so we can survive. We don't fight for survival. No one's gonna draw out a real sword against us. but of course we want to deal with such circumstance if something happens, like something nasty things happen to us, but hopefully we don't want to. So we train ourselves in Kendo, we call it heijōshin. We keep our mind calm and stable under any circumstances. But to be honest with you, how Nishimura Senshu did his work under near death. The death was right next to him, and he had to help those people who was dying. Without their help, probably they would be dead. And of course, there are a lot of people who died or who were hurt around Nishimura Senshu when he was working there. And he probably felt really sad as well, but he had to work, he had to keep going. And probably Kendo helped. He himself said Kendo helped. But still he is traumatized. And gradually, with his friends' help and families and family members' help, he's gradually recovering from that state. But probably he won't forget. Kendo teaches to me how we keep going forward and how to live, how to face difficulties, not face death. When my father was diagnosed as having cancer, and he didn't have, we were told that he only had 6 months left. And at that time, for the first time for me, I felt death close to me, and that was very scary. I wasn't diagnosed, but my father did, and that was scary. And when I thought about, my father might die soon, maybe 6 months, maybe it's 3 months, we don't know, but at this very moment he might die. And I have to live with this moment with him when I'm here in Japan, because I was already in US back then. So I tried to have a laugh with him. I knew, my family members knew, but in Japan we can still choose. It's up to family members if we want to tell the person who has this cancer or not. So we chose not to tell him because he wanted to take 6th Dan exam, and we want him to keep going like that. And he lived for longer than 6 months. But I felt really scary about death then, and I thought about death for the first time. I really thought about it, and at that time, I think I did my best to face the fear of losing my father. And of course it was sad, but because of Kendo, I probably could keep going. Of course, you don't have to do Kendo to keep going, but it helped me a lot. And watching my father doing Suburi for his 6th Dan exam, that gave me courage to keep going too. He didn't give up. He probably knew he was dying. I don't know, but he sat on the bed and he started doing Suburi quietly. Back then probably he couldn't even talk much, but he was doing. We need hope to keep going, to live. And of course, hope can be help with our family members and our friends. So Kendo really, we train really hard, but after this hard training, there is a hope that we can be better than this very moment, or hope that your sensei can give you a good, give you praise or whatever. There's a hope. Always there is a hope. Future after this hard training. And these teachers share wisdom of samurai swordsmanship. As we get better, we understand better those teachings as well. So there's a hope, there's a future, and we can share those knowledge with other people if we keep training hard for the hope, for the future, So I think it's very important to think about death, but at the same time, from Kendo, we can learn how to live strong, how to live with hope, even if our life is not going as we hope it to be. We can keep going and keep going strongly, and hoping that we can see a light somewhere in the future. So that's I think Kendo can help us to do. I wanted to share briefly my thoughts about death and life and how Kendo help us with to deal with our lives. I thought that is a good opportunity to share my experience and Nishimura Senshu's experience. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.